external, we have the external is considered part of this. So this section in between here where the bones are is the, you don't clearly see that, correct? Why?
Because it's tympanic memory.
Okay, yeah, good. And then this part here with all the vestibular, and where the nerve comes in, which cranial nerve is that comes in?
Vestibular, acoustic?
Trigeminal, right?
Oh, trigeminal.
Is it trigeminal? Which other one, 6?
Oh, which is 6?
Five.
Abducens.
5 trigeminal still. Does trigeminal sound like something? Trigeminal has 3 branches, right? You got it, that's the facial, but has motor, right? The motor being what? What's the sensory? You just tried the sensory. What's the motor of 5?
Trigeminal.
It was the motor part of trigeminal.
Visual sensations.
That's sensory. That's sensory. Is clenching your teeth?
No,
Right, thinking about that? Did anybody guess what auditory nerve is? Or acoustic nerve? 8. It's 8, right? Is it motor or sensory or both?
8.
Sensory?
Definitely sensory, right? You just sense, you know. Does it have a motor component?
It's muscles of mastication.
You're still trigeminal, right? You're just in and coming in. Yeah, that's good. You got that right. So, so again, is there a motor portion of cranial nerve 8?
No. It's just hearing and balance.
Which are
Hearing,
all
equilibrium, sensory.
Okay. So it's important to know which cranial nerves we're gonna run through them. Which cranial nerves have motor and sensory components? All that's yeah. 5. We just learned 5. 7.
7,
9.
9,
That's good because they're odd. They
10.
Don't start at 1 or 3. And then 10. That's it.
So 5, 7, 9, and 10.
Yeah, 5, 7,
Let's see
9,
that
and
part.
10.
Sensitive.
5, 7, 9, and 10.
Okay, so this is important to know a little bit of structures of the external and internal here.
Sensory and
You know, we do
motor.
different types of conduction tests to determine where the loss might be. We have like sensory neuronal loss of hearing, which occurs at the ending where the nerve is in the internal ear. And then we have like a conductive type of loss, which would occur at a loss where? Well, it's more related to the middle ear, right? The building the bones to conduct, right? The sound on there. And we're gonna go through those tests on there, but they're not commonly tests you actually really do in physical exams. For the purpose of your test, you should know how to do them. It would only be if really someone is presenting with hearing loss.
The rubber and the rhyme.
But there are skills, you know, and the reason for learning these skills, of course, is because they are all within our scope, and you never know when you need them. And if you don't learn some tools to apply at different times, you don't have them. So we're going to learn to hold the otoscope. How do people do in the lab with the
Me
otoscope?
metí en el labo de una hora.
We're able to see the tympanic membrane?
Yes.
Anything else in the ears you saw?
Cerumen,
Cerumen? No.
hair,
No, like cucarachas or anything?
hair.
You ever seen that?
Ay, están aquí desarmando a las 11 de la mañana.
Two.
Sí. We had a
When
meeting,
I was
we
in
had a
Haiti, I
meeting
saw
al
a
lado.
kid who had
Es que te metiste
looked like
también
he
en
had
la
a
cosa
little
esa,
cotton
mijo.
ball in
Sí,
his
yo
ear.
sé.
You know, kids stuff
Ahí te
things
la-
in all
te
his
la
holes
comí.
or
Yo
something
sé.
like that. So you're wondering
Yo
if
sé,
there's
dile to
something in his
myself.
ear. And you know, he's complaining of ear pain.
Pero mira,
And you kind of look in there,
me.
and I saw something
Yeah, exactly.
there, and I went
So it's
to
not-
grab
it's
it,
okay.
these like 4 steps, and then it retracted.
Y ya los chocolatitos ya los regalé.
How the cotton ball doesn't behave
Yeah,
in
I
that
gave
way,
all the
right?
chocolates away.
Yeah.
So I tried it again, and it kind of came back up, and then I kind of did. I said, it must be like it has some characteristics of life. Right? Like it's responding to a stimuli. So, you know, we put some like, you know, like liquid lidocaine in the ear, you know. Oh man, all this big fat larva. Oh my gosh, right? So, we didn't wait for the hatch to see actually what it was a larva. Yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible. I've seen it.
Yeah, the
I've
problem
seen
with
it.
larvae, right? They
I've
eat
seen
the
them take out a
eardrum, right?
roach of the
They just
ear.
chow down on anything. They're kind of hungry little characters, and they don't want to come out. Did anyone see a bean stuck in there? A bean?
No.
That's the worst, you don't wanna do
No.
that stuff. 'Cause what's the problem with beans? They swell. Well, they sprout, but they swell when they get wet. So they're not so easy to get out.
Oxígeno no.
Okay, so this is, we're gonna go through how we use it, just kind of two techniques. I think it's kind of natural. You kind of figure out that what technique works for you. So, we'll go through all, just generally this and then. Okay, so. The important part of this is, I guess, it's really that kind of corner diagram on there. It's really how you pull the ear depending on with children, you know. So usually if you pull on the upper side or the adults to straighten the canal, and then lower side for children. Yeah, adults have a more severe curve. So these are the landmarks, right? That we see, and most obvious is usually the cone of light here. Which year is this?
The left,
How do we know it's the left?
because it's at 7 o'clock.
Okay, right, so you see it there, so it's a left ear and a head on the other
It's
side. So
at 7
only shows
o'clock.
the frontal
The
area
left,
is
yeah.
going to be that, you might call it
¿Dónde
7,
oí eso?
8,
The
4
left ear.
o'clock, 5
¿Dónde?
o'clock.
Parece que lo vi en algún lado.
So that's a landmark. And you may see clearly
No
these
sé.
features or not.
In the
The
ear.
malleus, the incus, you know, barely
No
you see
sé,
the
like a
safety
picture.
Oh,
shot there.
no, en el Shadow Hall.
Oh, Shadow
That's a
Hall.
little harder to see.
En el Shadow Hall. Hoy lo vi en Shadow Hall.
Está buenísimo. El
Las-
horoscope ese está buenísimo.
¿Viste qué buena está?
It's huge. Tiene como un hueco
¿Viste qué
grande.
buena está?
We're gonna go through some of that tonight. You're
First
familiar with
Tú
some of
ves
these
el grabado
tests?
yo lo hice mi abuela.
Buenísimo.
So we'll test some
Me
hearing, you know,
recuerdo,
typically
she
with
did
hearing, we can do two pathways of hearing. We talked about that. Air conduction, what is an example of air conduction?
Longer than one.
An example of it.
Like an example we do?
What would be an example of something that's like an air conduction that's,
Like the rainbow?
just you'd be like talking with air
Whisper.
This
conduction,
one.
right? I mean,
This-
we usually hear things by,
Little whispers.
Or
right,
this
we usually
one.
hear things by air
I think it's
conduction.
this one, maybe.
No, just.
Right, blowing in the, okay, you're
Just
thinking
this
about
one.
Hard Rock Cafe, right? You're gonna blowing in the air, setting up the mood, quickly, got it, that's where it starts, right? How about bone conduction?
The
The rhyme.
Rhyme.
There you go. The Weber back here.
Right, so we do that for that, we test to see if we can bypass the middle ear, right? And just go right to the inner ear on that. I mean, you'd also hear bone conduction by, like this, right? If you cover your ears, you hear it conduct vibration through the bone. Just try it, you can say something. Yeah, just say something, you hear it, it's gonna vibrate through the bones. So. Got that? We talked about this. We're gonna run through this thing, I haven't seen this video yet. Let's look at this one and we'll go back to one word and see if this is any good.
Romberg's test is a check for proprioception, primarily lower body. I'm gonna have the patient look straight ahead with their feet together, hands to their side, and I'm gonna watch for excessive sway. Then I'm gonna have the patient close their eyes, and again, watching for excessive swaying, loss of balance. Open your eyes.
You know, it's not really even 100% sure why they would teach that in, it's not exactly just vestibular, it could be one problem with that. Where else can dysfunction cause a failed rumbar?
Vertigo.
Alright, so that's here, that would be, alright. Cerebellar function, where else is proprioception measured? What is proprioception again?
To the space, to know like the space
Kind of
around
balance,
you, right?
right? But it also like it has to do with like spatial
Depth,
awareness.
Spatial awareness, that's what I'm looking for.
Right? Not that really like beyond space and time. So, not so futuristic, just kind of real common stuff. You know, maybe we need to have a metaphysical discussion later on that. So It also, proprioception is also measured in your joints. Your joints also assess proprioception and spatial awareness as well too. And proprioception, if you do it all the time, is hard when you close your eyes. Right, to maintain the sense of this, if you're doing like a yoga pose on one leg and you close your eyes, then it's much more difficult to do. So. Let's see the Weber test. I heard people call it like Weber or something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, get it right.
Eso es lo que tú me decías, yo lo vi en YouTube.
Just take it.
Oh, there it is, okay. Is there an audio of this one? What is happening? That girl was just kind
No,
of,
Paco.
she looks nervous. Okay, there we go. So we did. That's not excellent, but that's not excellent.
No puedes tocar la parte arriba del tenedor. Tiene que aguantarlo por abajo. Yo nunca lo había hecho.
Okay, how do you say this test?
Ryan.
Actually, some people say Renee as
Renee,
well
I've
too.
heard Renee.
I don't think the person's alive to really find out what they prefer themselves called anymore. So Ryan is like the most common that I hear. You always worry if you're gonna say it right.
This one's saying Renee, this video.
So you copied it on there, right? Yeah.
You have a lymph node video there, that's really good.
You like that one?
Oh.
I don't know if that's one you use, but it's good. I saw it today.
Same one?
¿Quién?
So what's she doing there?
El muchacho.
Gives you general idea, right? Hurt a little bit. So they start on the bone and move through the air. Okay. So again, these tests are usually only done when you have a reported hearing loss on this, so they're not standard for the purpose of this. We're gonna to do it, right? So the Weber test, normal will be considered hearing sounds in both ears. And then the Ryan test, Renee test is air conduction about twice as long as bone conduction.
You gotta know the Weber versus Renee test. I don't know if it's pronounced Renee or Rennie, but for now on we're calling it the Rennie test. The Weber, you gotta know. You gotta know versus Renee. You gotta know. I don't know if it's pronounced Renee. I don't know if it's pronounced Renee. If you look at Weber,
I know it.
I hear voices.
We didn't need it. We didn't need it. That was helpful. So you gotta know the Ryan, Renee, and then some other guy say, "Hey, you, knock all that, idiots." Wow.
That was pretty intense, I thought that was. I was thinking, did someone take the microphone?
Wow.
Bang your tuning fork. Okay, I can hear that. Now you're gonna put it on the mastoid. And I'm gonna hear it through.
Everybody know where their mastoid is? You can find it?
Until I stop hearing it through bone conduction. And now when I put it in front of my ear, I should still hear it. Okay? Because it's not enough to get my bone conduction, but if I have that amplification that takes place through the ear canal, I do hear it. So it should be louder here than on the bone. That's Rennie's test. And what that's gonna tell you is, yes, there is a conduction deficit, or no, there is not a conduction deficit. Okay? If they can hear this and they can't hear that,
So what
Run.
problem?
Conductive loss.
Air conduction.
It's a conduction problem, right? You're relying on the bones to make by sound.
then there's a conduction deficit. Remember that we have these two steps, conduction and then sensory neural processing. When I put that tuning fork on the mastoid, it bypasses the conduction step, goes directly to the cochlea. My sensory neural processing hears it, and that's fine. And when I put it in front of the ear, there's air, it's traveling through the air, now it's getting amplified by the external ear, and now I'm hearing it louder, because in that case. So, if you hear it louder here than here, if you can still hear it here after you've stopped hearing it here, that's a
What kind of finding is that?
Sensory.
Good stuff she's talking about.
That is a normal finding.
It's a normal finding.
louder, because you can stop hearing it here, that's a typical way to do this, then it's normal, okay? Conduction should be louder than bone conducted. Air conducted sound should be louder than bone conducted sound. And you can do that on both ears, and that's gonna tell you whether conduction in the right and conduction on the left is working or not. Okay, now, armed with that information, we're gonna go one step further. We're gonna now do Weber's test. And Weber's test is different. It's this. Putting it up on the vertex of the head, and I'm asking which side is louder. Okay, so let's go to the board to try and understand what is happening. So, I have a vibrating tuning fork up at the top, middle of the head. It is traveling, it's sending waves through the bone on both sides.
So bone conduction?
And so the stimulus on both sides is the same. So the person, you ask the person which side is louder, they should say, it's the same loudness on both sides, okay, it's the same. Now, let's say that they say, no, it's louder on one side. Well, how could we get to the sounding louder on one side? There are two ways. The first way, well, let's just remind ourselves of Weber's law. It is no mistake that this Weber's test harkens back to Weber's law. So the change in perception, the magnitude of the sound, is equal to a constant times natural log of the stimulus, the change in sound over the background sound, okay? So in order for this to be, if this is gonna be decreased, then this value is gonna decrease. How can this value decrease? It can decrease
He just said
in
it.
one of two ways.
Like the formula? No.
It can decrease because the numerator goes down, or because the denominator goes up. And with the numerator is if there's a deficit in sensory neural processing. So this is traveling through bone,
And you have to
it's
do
gonna
it,
end
You
up
got it
going
right.
into the cochlea,
Bueno, I think
and
so.
if the
We'll get it.
cochlea is not working well, then delta S, the stimulus, will be less. It'll have less of an effect. And so if the person says that it's louder, let's say the person says that it's louder over here, louder over here. One explanation is that you lost sensory neural processing on the other side.
Does that make sense? Okay, so that means it's conducting to the inner ear, to the one that functions better, so then the sensor is louder.
Okay? Now, what's the other explanation? Well, in fact, background noise doesn't go up, the contralateral one goes down. So let's now say that the background noise coming into the two ears is the same, but now we have a conductive failure here. So there's no conduction here. That means that the change in the stimulus is the same. So in this situation, sensory neural processing is normal, but there's no conduction. So this stays the same, but this goes down. If this goes down, then this becomes louder. Okay? So, if this is loud, if it's louder on this side, that can be explained either by a loss of sensory neural processing on the contralateral side or a loss of conduction on the ipsilateral side. So if S naught, background activity, is blocked, then this value of delta S over S
This is
naught
ultimately why we do
way,
both
way
tests
down,
together.
that's now.
Because one doesn't clearly tell you, they just point you in the
Right,
direction.
and that's just, it's summarized here. If you have a conductive loss, that's due to a decrease in the background.
I need water.
Okay, this is a normal finding in the ear, and everybody can probably calculate it on their own ear, right? As a locator, throw a cervical there. The apex of the anthropoid ear, common ancestry between humanity and apes. Okay, and these are other findings. Sometimes you find tags or pits, and these would be important when you do your external inspection of it, but to identify it, if you have them. Bigger is it closer to an ape. Okay, frostbite, we don't get too much of that cases here, right? But you can have other types of damage in the ear. Okay, so we may see this, or we may see scabbing as well. So your point will be kind of, this one appears to have like a little bit of discharge in the ear as well too. You see something kind of here, we might get. We would describe that and what part of the ear is found in. So wax can look like this, right?
Así
Anybody see
mismo.
this much- This top one, anybody see this much wax in the ear?
Oh my God, yes. I looked at mi papá. Bueno, mi mamá. Wax. I saw, and you see the white wax. You know what they told me? When you see white wax, they say que es hongo. Mi amiga says que cuando lo
Okay,
ves
so
blanco,
the
que
notitis
es
externa would
fungus.
be infection of the ear canal.
No
You will see
sé,
that kind of like
no sé.
the look on the
No le
bottom, like a
pregunté.
lot of pus in there, and it's usually very,
De mi
very
abuela
tender.
era
They
blanco.
don't
I'm gonna
like
find out.
otoscopes.
Salió
A los
todo.
4 días. Ya que lo miré,
O
estaba
si
amarillo.
le
Que se
le
seca
mete
el
Acute
es
otitis
a
media
lo mejor
would
como
be, you
del
see
oído
from the
húmedo
tympanic membrane, you
y
see some
crea ese
inflammation there.
environment.
Right, if you happen to
Yo
see a
creo que no
hole
pasa
in it, which
nada,
you could, then you
lo
know
que a
there's
lo mejor puede
perforation
causar un
there.
ear infection, you know.
And they're also gonna be reporting a
Oh my
lot
God,
of
is it?
pain as
Yeah,
well.
what's wrong with my computer?
Some
It's
have
frozen.
effusion back there where there's liquid back there, you might see bubbles, but they might not report ear pain. They might just report like a stuffiness. You might see it with people who have colds. Right, when you have colds and the ear is kind of stuffy, you may see an effusion back there. So you may see liquid or bubbles. So here's bubbles, you don't have to have the otitis media with effusion, you can get the effusion without it.
Dry, you say dry.
Ve, look at the otitis media.
And it distorts tympanic membrane, so you can see that it doesn't have the typical markers of it. So, these are some ideas of how you might go about considering differential diagnosis. Well, so looking at the nose, right? So we are gonna be looking up the nose, we're gonna be looking, we don't get very far, those turbinates kind of get in the way, so we're not putting scopes all the way back to the eustachian tube or to the pharyngeal tonsils back there, but we will look in there and just try to describe it as best you can. So, we do assess the sinuses, but we obviously don't see the sinuses. What are the purposes of sinuses?
So,
Well, they can be that way, right? They also maintain a sense of pressure balance as well too, between the ears. Some of them do in the throat as well too. And the frontal ones are gonna be up at the top, right? We
Right.
palpate the maxillary ones here. The ethmoid and you see the sphenoid ones are not typically palpable. But someone might report some sort of pain in that general area, you know?
sphenoid right here.
Right.
We need to do
But they're
that.
not, you can't assess them in the same way. See, that picture doesn't show you that they're going back, they're distant back there. So, okay, so as always, we start with an external look at it, we test the patency, sinus hairs and palpate. This is just some description of the nose, just that, so you sound intelligently describe it. Another picture of this, right? That's kind of what you look and you kind of see down there. Nasal sound. So here's some differential diagnosis. If you do see pus in the nasal discharge, right? But usually you're not gonna make that diagnosis based on findings in the nose. That's just gonna be like additional information, you know, except the nasal foreign body might be, you might go, but it may be further up there as well too. So you may need also some imaging.
You see, you could
especially
look
if they
up the
pull something
nose.
up the nose.
I haven't done that. Like,
Here's some more differential diagnoses. Sinus palpation. A is looking at which sinus? And B?
maxillary, and then ethmoid.
Any good? This girl.
Me gusta ENT un poco. Sí, el transillumination and eso es que está congested, right?
Man, you're going that way.
No,
You're
you're not trying that.
grip of seal on her hands.
Lo que voy a buscar es agua.
Sit on that.
I need to
No
buy
wonder
like
the
a
girl was so
big jug.
nervous. Did you see that
Y
last one?
tenerlo
That
así.
video was
Yo
done
voy a venir
after.
con una
I
nevera.
bet you did the other one with tuning forks after.
And I'm gonna get
She's looking, are you
another
ready to with that
book.
thing? It's like, you see, you bag the head, you
I
grab
just haven't had a chance
the
to.
eyebrow. That's she
Como
knows.
los niños.
She knows she's a student, she's not gonna backtalk her.
Ya,
That's what I think she's saying, right?
Él va a ser para el domingo,
So
right?
we'll go with that.
El
Bueno,
del-
spring break next week, so.
Oh,
The transillumination, probably the same one doing that work.
yo voy a hacer shadow.
Demonstrate how to translate the frontal
Yo
sinuses.
sé, yo vi, lo voy a hacer.
Pero mandarte fax.
Sí.
Estoy cogiendo mejor. Ya,
For the frontal sinuses, you place the light just below the brow, and you cup your hand over the light, looking for a warm glow in the
Que
frontal.
miraculous, but I've done well on it.
She didn't just cut the hand and turn off the lights too. She
Desde
didn't tell you
like
that.
this. Y yo lo he hecho por mí.
igual que
Mira,
yo.
porque tiene que practicar, te ayuda con pensar. Y hace la pregunta.
What would be a normal
La primera semana
finding?
72, el otro.
That it does illuminate. You find that part, like, that's a normal finding.
Ya la cogí.
If it was
The keyboard, see the
clogged or something, you might not see it illuminate.
And I took picture of something.
So that's usually what happens is when you feel like it's like usually a mucus plug up there that closes it off, or they swell like a sinusitis, and then it causes the secretion along with the swelling, and then you don't get the transillumination. So you have an idea.
To illuminate the maxillary sinuses, dim the room lights and ask the patient to tilt her head back and open her mouth. Place the light source against the cheekbone just below the eye. The presence of a reddish glow on the hard palate indicates a normal air-filled sinus.
Normal.
Okay?
Claro.
That-
Basic inflammation
True.
no pasa.
No se ve.
¿Qué te hace eso? No.
So, important to be able to identify when you look at the mouth, it's really important work is to be able to, obviously you can identify the tongue, underneath the tongue, the salivary glands. Usually people recognize, noting if there's any kind of deviations on there. And there are tonsils in the back, there are the palatine tonsils, so there are other sets of tonsils back there. There's the pharyngeal tonsils, which you don't see at the back of the nasal cavity. And then the lingual ones, which are at the base of the tongue, which you don't typically see either. So, and you might grade the tonsils as well if you did see anything, or if they report that they have no tonsils, you may also notice that as well. So, most tonsils are like +1, right? They have a little bit, maybe they occupy about 25%. If the midline is 100% for one tonsil, right, you would say that, like the grade 1 is about 25% of that space, or half of that is a grade 2, 3 is about 75%, and then going all the way to the uvula would be, grade 4. So looking at this, there. So here we go a little bit into, the cranial nerves again. So we talked about 7, right? Remember 7 has motor and sensory, right? We looked at 5. So what is the sensory and motor on 7?
That's facial.
Do we have an idea? So let's start maybe from the beginning. Let's do 1. What is cranial nerve 1?
Olfactory.
Okay.
The smelling.
And what's sensory or motor?
Sensory.
And what sense is that? Okay. Number 2?
Optic.
Okay. Sensory or motor?
Sensory.
And the sense is?
The visual acuity.
Vision. Right. Okay.
Vision.
Good.
That's the one that.
Okay. Now cranial 3?
Ocular motor.
Sensory or motor?
Motor.
Motor. And what is the movement?
Eyelid elevation. Extraocular movements. Pupil size.
Up and down.
Well, not lateral, right? And inferior medial is not. Everything
It's just
except that,
lateral.
right?
Lateral. Let's see. Lateral.
Right, got it. 4 on the nose and 6 on the ears. Got that? Didn't that look like a 6? And a 4?
Oh, that's what you're
That's what I said, yeah.
saying.
Okay, so,
I gotta learn how to do
how cranial nerve 4? Trochlear,
Trochlear, motor.
sensory or motor?
Motor.
It's motor, right?
And
What
end.
direction is that?
And end.
Inferior and medial? But that's that sound, right? Inferior and medial, got it? Good trick.
Mine's are good.
That was good. 5, you already did 5, so 5 should be easy.
Gemini.
Sensory or motor?
Both.
Both, okay? What's the, see,
Both.
what's the sensory part?
The feeling.
The 3 branches, right? What's the motor part?
Opening and closing.
Open and close it, yeah.
Facial mouth.
Right, you got it.
Chewing.
Okay, 6.
Abducens.
Abducens, I heard that.
Motor.
Again, sensory or motor?
Motor.
Motor. And then looking which direction?
Laterally. Lateral.
Okay.
Sí, ese es así.
See, we're moving through 7.
Yes.